I'm Ed Davis. I'm chairman of the Callaway County Republican Party. It's my very distinct privilege to welcome all of you to the 2019 Lincoln-Reagan dinner. Welcome you to Callaway County, to welcome you to the campus of Murray State University, the home of the OVC basketball champions. We're extremely grateful for each and every one of you for your presence tonight, especially those candidates that we've been back and forth with your campaign managers and other people. And I think most of our candidates are here, but be that as it may. Some of you have driven a long way. Some of you may be staying over. That'd be nice. We need the revenue in the city for the tax dollars. So also to you who are running for office, let me say that I truly appreciate your making that commitment. Many of you know I ran for the mayor of Murray. Didn't win, but I can appreciate the efforts that it takes to try to win anyway. So I appreciate that as well. Thank you. I want also to thank the individuals who helped with the organization of this event. Vicki Travis, who is our vice chair, the real driving force behind everything, Peggy Taylor, our secretary. Thomas Collins was taking up money. He's our treasurer. And, of course, I'll introduce Greg just a little bit later. Thanks to Vernon and Brenda Anderson for their work, Terry Delancey and others who may have been here this morning to help us set up for this event tonight. We have a great evening planned. Sit back, relax, enjoy the fellowship, and enjoy the relationship with everyone. Before I offer the prayer, I'd like to offer two comments, two quotes, one from Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan once said, "If you love your country, we should also love our countrymen." Abraham Lincoln said, "Without the assistance of the divine being, I cannot succeed. With that assistance, I cannot fail." Will you stand and bow with me in prayer, please? Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come before Thee tonight to simply make our supplication and prayer unto You with thanksgiving. We thank You for Your great love, for Your comfort that You show to us in so many, many ways. As Americans, we pray for peace on earth. We pray for goodwill toward all mankind. We pray that all hatred and unkindness would fade from our great nation. We thank You for those who hold office currently and those who are seeking office, that they will look to You for strength, for wisdom, for guidance in all of their decisions, that they will lead with good moral leadership, and with Your guidance that You will continue to bless our commonwealth and our nation, as well as You bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies, that we may be used in Your service. And it's in Jesus' precious name that we humbly pray. Amen. Remain standing, and Miss Alex Roughton will sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof
I'd like to bring to the, have a seat. I'd like to bring to the stage a man who really needs no introduction, but he deserves one anyway. He is our 1st District chairman. He is Mr. Republican, as far as I'm concerned. He is my friend. He is my mentor. Greg Delancey.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it very much. Thanks again for everybody being here tonight. I want to take just a moment to let you know about our keynote speakers that will be here this evening and welcome them before we eat our dinner tonight. But fellow Republicans, we're extremely proud to have with us tonight our Majority Leader of the United States Senate, a person that considers the end game and is winning for our state, our party, and our nation. And Kentucky's own, would you please welcome U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell. Joining the senators tonight, we have another moment to be proud. Please join me in recognizing President Trump's Cabinet Secretary for Transportation and the former U.S. Labor Secretary under President George W. Bush, Secretary Elaine Chao. Next on our list is a very important part of who we are in the 1st Congressional District, a GOP leader that has taken Washington by storm, representing our 1st District, and extremely well, making his mark in agriculture as the former Agriculture Commissioner in Kentucky, a former representative for our state. Let's welcome James Comer. Thank you, Congressman. Also tonight, we're honored to have another leader on our team. During his administration, we've seen record investment here in our state and leadership that underscores life and family. Please welcome our Governor, Matt Bevin. And sitting tonight with the governor is his running mate, Ralph Alvarado, also a state senator, and his wife, also Dawn, here tonight. Thank you for being here. Now, the most important part, at least right now, is a chance for us to dine together and to break some bread. And it's so good to have everybody here tonight. We're going to let the senator at his table, the other guests, to begin this way. To go through the tables, there's 4 lines. So if you would, just follow them as they go. And we'll have our dinner here during this time. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here in just a moment. I'm going to take your attention up here and to the video screen and let you know that U.S. Senator Rand Paul sends his regrets. But he did and has been in the last couple of years when he has not been able to be here to send a video. And so we're going to play a video from Senator Rand Paul that was put together the last couple of days. And so your attention, please, to the screen.
U.S. Senator Rand Paul, one of our nation's leading advocates for liberty, truth, and justice, has fought tirelessly to keep the overreaching powers of our government in check. A true champion of the American spirit and defender of the Constitution, Paul has proven time and time again that he will always vote in line with our founding fathers, dedicated to upholding our freedoms so many have fought and died for.
Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there with you tonight, but I'd like to give you an update on what's going on in Washington. It's been an exciting past year. I'm proud to be a big supporter of President Trump's America First policies. When the establishment swamp in Washington deserts the president, I've been there to defend him, whether it's the witch hunt investigations or the fake news of the left. I was proud to join with the president to repeal more regulations than at any time in our history. I supported President Trump's Supreme Court picks and voted for the largest tax cut in a generation. The positive effects of the huge tax cuts can be seen all across Kentucky. The biggest complaint I hear from Kentucky businesses is actually trouble finding enough workers. Across America, over 3 million jobs have been created. The tax cut allowed us to go from the highest corporate tax rate in the world to one of the lowest. The tax cut is encouraging American businesses to stay at home and not to go abroad seeking lower tax rates. Since the tax cut, we now have the lowest unemployment in 50 years. As many of you know, I worked with President Trump to allow individuals to join together to negotiate less expensive health care insurance. These association health plans are already working. Here in Kentucky, these plans are allowing small businesses to get the same low rates that have previously only been available to big companies. In the most recent Congress, I was proud to lead the charge for many Kentucky victories. For Hardin and Christian County, I was able to convince the census to count our troops accurately. For Fort Knox, I fought to allow them to use the natural gas beneath the base. For all the citizens and cities surrounding Lake Cumberland and Rough River Lake, I was able to legislatively stop the bureaucrats from enacting exorbitant fees. Many of these things have been critically important to Western Kentucky. For the new and rapidly growing hemp industry, I was able to get hemp fully legalized. For all farmers and landowners, I reintroduced my bill that would prevent the EPA from invading Kentucky and regulating our land. Whether it's fighting for government to get out of the way so you can have the freedom to fish or speak up for the unborn who cannot speak for themselves, we are the party of values, and I'm proud to be a part of our shared mission. For years, I've advocated for bringing our troops home, and I'm proud of President Trump's commitment to ending the war in Afghanistan. Finally, we have a president who's bold enough to declare victory after 17 years. I'm tired of America always having to do everybody else's fighting. I'm tired of America paying for everybody else's war. What happened to putting America first? We spend about $50 billion a year in Afghanistan. If we had declared victory years ago, like we should have, imagine all the priorities we could fund here at home. Our bridges, our roads, border security. America needs to come first. At the end of last year, in a rare bipartisan move, Congress passed the First Step Act, a much-needed, comprehensive sentencing and prison reform bill. My wife Kelly and I worked together with the President and others to pass this bill, which gives people a second chance. So many Kentucky families have been devastated by the opioid epidemic. Last year, more people died from overdoses than from car accidents. Criminal justice reform is about treating our nation's drug problem as a health care problem, not treating these people with decades-long incarceration. I ran for office because I was concerned about our massive federal debt. Unfortunately, even with Republicans in charge of the three branches of government, the debt continues to explode. I, for one, have steadfastly opposed adding new Republican debt the same way I opposed adding new Democrat debt. I treat my office budget the way Congress should treat the overall budget. Since I was elected, I've returned over $4 million from my office account to the Treasury. I continue to introduce the penny plan that cuts overall spending by 1% and balances the budget in 5 years. Unfortunately, Washington loves to spend, so that we continue to pile on debt at over $1 million every minute. At the end of the day, though, my #1 priority is keeping my promise to you, the people of Kentucky. My promise is to always stand up for what we believe in, to defend our liberty, our freedom, and the principles enshrined in the Constitution, no matter what. Thanks a lot for your support. Good night.
Thank you to the Senator and Rachel McCubbin, who is here tonight representing the Senator. Thank you, Rachel, and your entire crew. Thank you. Next coming up is Jonathan Schell. Jonathan is the former House Majority Leader, and is also working as the head of Mitch McConnell's campaign for re-election. Jonathan Schell.
Thank you. It's great to be in the home of friends like Kenny Imes, Larry Elkins, and Stan Humphreys here tonight here in Murray. Thank you all so much for allowing the opportunity for us to be here to fellowship with you all. When Leader McConnell asked me to be his campaign chairman, there was really only one answer to be able to give, and that was yes. And it's because of three major reasons. No one has done more to fight back against the radical Democrats in Washington, D.C. than Leader McConnell. No one has done more to accomplish President Trump's agenda in Washington, D.C. than Leader McConnell. No one has done more to put Kentucky's voice at the forefront of every conversation in Washington, D.C. like Leader McConnell. On issues like hemp, with our great congressman like Jamie Comer being there on the Farm Bill with him, there was no way that we couldn't have success for that industry with that happening. But no one puts that voice at the forefront like Leader McConnell. And if all of those reasons were not there, this last one is the main reason. My children's future are secured. Our country is secure now because we have a constitutional majority on the Supreme Court because of judges like Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. Leader, thank you. There was no way that I was going to say no to travel in this state on his behalf with so many accomplishments by a man who has been there and had our back so long, and I'm going to have his back. Leader, thank you so much. I'm going to let the video that we're going to play say a little bit more about it.
The fight to replace Justice Scalia with the court's balance of power at stake, it is shaping up to be a monumental fight.
I simply ask Republicans in the Senate to give him a hearing and then an up or down vote.
Let's let the American people decide. Who will Americans trust to nominate the next Supreme Court justice?
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell declared the vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president.
It is the president's constitutional right to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and it is the Senate's constitutional right to act as a check. The next president may also nominate somebody very different.
Right now, a historic moment. Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
We have a man, one of the most powerful men in the world, comes from Kentucky. It's not bad.
The American people decided they wanted Donald Trump to make the nomination, not Hillary Clinton. And what's before us now, the qualifications of Neil Gorsuch.
The Senate confirmed President Trump's pick for the Supreme Court today.
In the very near future, Judge Kavanaugh will be on the United States Supreme Court.
Nomination of Brett M. Kavanaugh of Maryland to be an Associate Justice is confirmed.
He's rock-ribbed Kentucky leader.
Under President Trump, with you as Majority Leader, 2 Supreme Court justices have been confirmed, and 26 judges have been put on circuit courts. That's the fastest pace in history.
The Farm Bill now just awaits President Trump's signature.
Mitch McConnell signed off on the final version of the bill that legalizes industrial hemp, which should have a big effect on Kentucky.
It looks like it will be legal across the U.S. thanks to the leadership of Senator Mitch McConnell. He's been a strong supporter of a provision in the bill that would legalize hemp for industrial purposes.
There's nobody tougher.
We now add comprehensive tax reform, major middle-class relief.
The president's tax plan, the Senate passing it at 2 a.m. Saturday morning.
Yes, indeed, the middle class is likely to be helped by this.
This is a standout report. The U.S. economy hit a record.
2019 got off to a strong start on the jobs front with payrolls higher than expected.
The Federal Reserve calls that full employment, meaning anyone who wants a job, you can get a job.
I was going to say 3.9%. That's the big news. Strong numbers, you guys. Another month of strong numbers. The unemployment rate, that is the lowest we have seen since 2000.
There's nobody smarter. I know tough people. He's tough. He's Kentucky tough, which is about as tough. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you all. It's great to see you here. If you'll indulge me, a little reminiscing. Back in 1984, when I first started coming to Western Kentucky frequently, the registration in our state was 2.5 to 1 Democratic. Now it's about 1.3 to 1 Democratic. I was the Jefferson County judge. I don't even have them anymore up there. You know, we have 120 counties, of course. We had 28 Republican county judges in the whole state. Kenny Imes, how many Republican county judges are there now? I know it's 70 or so. 70 what? Yeah. If you drew a line from Owensboro down to Bowling Green, west of there down to the Mississippi, there wasn't one single solitary Republican state senator or state representative, and today there's not a single Democratic state representative or state senator. So we've come a long way together, but you know, governing is harder than being on the outside. And I'm not great at math, but I know that 19 comes before 20. 19 comes before 20. And job one in 2019 is to re-elect Governor Matt Bevin to a second term. And our great constitutional officers, incumbents who are running, Ryan Quarles, who's done a superb job as Commissioner of Agriculture. Allison Ball, our great state treasurer. And Mike Harmon, our terrific state auditor. And there are two Democrats left statewide, the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, and we're going to fix that this November, aren't we? Look, you know, I'm often asked what being the majority leader of the Senate is like. The best answer I've been able to come up with is it's a little bit like being the groundskeeper at a cemetery. Everybody's under you, but nobody's listening. So, what is it that the majority leader gets to do that the other 99 don't? It's to decide what we're going to do, the schedule. And you just saw in the video the single most consequential decision I ever made as majority leader of the Senate and in my entire career was to say to President Obama, you will not fill this Supreme Court vacancy in the last year of your term. So there are some other advantages that I think allow Kentucky to punch above its weight. You might not have thought about it this way, but I'm the only one of the 4 congressional leaders that's not from New York or California. So part of my job is to look out for Middle America. And in the heart of Middle America, obviously, is Kentucky. And so when you're in the middle of every issue, the opportunities to help our state come along. Your great congressman is here tonight, Jamie Comer. He's the one that started the let's legalize industrial hemp thing back before it was cool. Back when we were still trying to explain to people it wasn't that illicit cousin, it was something else with a great potential for Kentucky. So he convinced me that it's something I ought to care about. But we had a dilemma. In the previous Farm Bill, I put in there pilot projects, and a number of people took advantage of those pilot projects, but it was still at the federal level under the Controlled Substances Act. In other words, illegal. So in this year's Farm Bill, again, one of the advantages of being in the position I'm in for Kentucky, I said to the chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, how about tucking into the Farm Bill before it even comes out of committee the legalization of industrial hemp? He said, of course. For those of you who are not familiar with the legislative process, it's harder to get things out than it is to put them in, particularly when the bill starts with what we call the chairman's mark. A bill has to start somewhere, so the committee chairman in the majority lays down the original bill. It was in there from the beginning. And then, amazingly enough, no one tried to take it out on the Senate floor. And in spite of Congressman Comer's Herculean efforts, it was not inserted in the House bill, but he and I talked about that. The Speaker Ryan and I talked about the importance of having Congressman Comer on the conference where the House and the Senate, if they pass different versions, get together and work out the differences. And Congressman Comer was on the conference on the House side. Guess who appoints the Senate members to the conference? Me. I appointed myself. So Congressman Comer and I made sure that the final version of the Farm Bill legalized industrial hemp and gave Kentucky an opportunity for a great new agricultural future, and we're proud of it, and we hope you take full advantage of it. There are other things that pop up from time to time that are Kentucky specific that I feel like I'm in a unique position to help on. I don't know ultimately what the solution is to the Asian carp problem, but we're going to figure it out. And I put some money in an appropriation bill to get us some federal involvement in that so we can figure out how to keep this darn fish from destroying the fishing industry and the tourism that we enjoy here in western Kentucky. Callaway County. Callaway County. Well, you saw my roommate here tonight. Got a standing ovation, which she richly deserves. And you all probably know this, but it bears repeating. Kentucky's only had one member of the cabinet, president's cabinet, since World War II. And it's the same person, and she's had 2 cabinet jobs in 2 different administrations. And Kenny Imes was reminding me when I came in tonight, as if I needed any reminder, just how important the build grant for Highway 641 South of $23 million is going to help Callaway County. Thank you, Elaine. So, when 20 comes after 19, and I'm in the arena, my argument to the people of Kentucky is my service makes a difference. Every member of the Senate has a vote, but all senators are not equally able to affect the outcome of things. So in addition to looking out for Kentucky, what I'm also trying to do is looking out for America. And I can tell you, I never thought in my adult lifetime we'd have a debate in this country about the virtues of capitalism. Never thought it. I mean, you can imagine back in the 30s during the Great Depression that some Americans wondered whether capitalism was really what America ought to have after a lengthy, devastating depression. Today, we have the lowest unemployment in 50 years. The country is, by all accounts, doing quite well. And yet, our friends on the left are suggesting that America ought to have socialism. So here's my prediction. Very soon they'll start saying, oh, that's just one young congresswoman in New York. Don't pay any attention to her. It's not any broader than that. I think at some point the presidential candidates will start trying to distance themselves from socialism. But listen, watch what they do, not what they say they are. Watch what they do. The Green New Deal. We're going to be voting on that in the Senate. I was asked recently by a reporter, why are you voting on the Green New Deal and not some of the other things that are coming out of the House? And I said, because I get to decide what we're going to vote on. Pretty simple answer. Many of the Senate Democrats may vote present, but that's pretty hard to explain too. Because if you've read anything at all about the Green New Deal, you know it's a prescription for disaster. It's shutting down the economy, killing jobs. And the irony of it all is, everyone agrees it'd be a good idea to reduce carbon emissions. And by the way, America's doing a better job of that than any other country with technological advances, not by shutting down the economy. These people want to control everything, everything. They recently passed a bill in the House to have your tax dollars go to paying for political campaigns. How do you like that? They take your tax money and give it to a candidate you're not even for to fund his campaign. You get to fund the attack ads and buttons and bumper stickers and balloons and the like. These people are hard left, and we haven't gotten to Medicare for all yet. What Medicare for all, remember, is actually Medicare for none. It means if you are one of the 60% of Americans that have private health insurance, you're going to lose it. If you're on Medicare, it's going to be drained by all these additional people who will be added to the roll. So add it up. Add it up. The Green New Deal, Medicare for all, socialism for America. So no matter what they say they are, ultimately, this is what they are. That will never happen as long as I'm Majority Leader of the Senate. And I want to tell you also, even though our legislative agenda has been slowed somewhat, to put it mildly, by the new House of Representatives, the Senate's in the personnel business. There are over 1,200 executive branch appointments that come to us for confirmation. We're still rocking and rolling on judges. We completed confirmation on 5 new circuit judges in the last 2 weeks. The President is sending up terrific men and women. They're young, they're strict constructionists. Let me tell you what that means. Well, what is a strict constructionist? Well, you know, really the founding father of modern strict construction was Justice Scalia. And here's the way he put it. He said, the job of a judge is to try to follow the law. Doesn't sound very complicated, nor would you think it'd be controversial. He said, if you want to run for public policy, you want to make policy, why don't you run for office? Run for office. So that is the simple, quaint notion that we're looking for, and the President's done a great job of picking these people out and sending them up. The other thing we want them to be is to be young, to be there a long time. One of the women we confirmed in the last 2 weeks is 37. I like that. One of the men was 39. They're sending up brilliant, young men and women who will be on the courts for a very long time. And I think of all the things that we've been able to accomplish in this administration, at the top of the list, I would put the courts, because they have the longest impact on the future of the country. I love the tax bill. It's a great bill. But every time the political winds shift, people go at the tax bill and start changing it again. There's not much you can do. There's not much you can do about a lifetime appointment. And so my goal is to leave no vacancy behind. We know that at least no vacancy will be left behind, either at the circuit court level or the district court level. And we know we'll be able to do that for at least 2 more years. And if the President can get a second term, and I'm still leading the Senate majority in his second term, we're going to keep on doing it. Already we've made an important difference. 1 out of every 5 circuit court judges, that's one step below the Supreme Court, 1 out of every 5 has been appointed, nominated by President Trump and confirmed by this Senate. So I'll close with this. We've all come a long way together. We have a lot of governing responsibility. Governing is hard. It's a lot easier sometimes when you're a minority and you can just kind of throw stones. Governing is hard. And when you step up, like they've had to do in Frankfurt, and tackle tough issues, it creates controversy. So, the real test is whether we can sustain this dominance that we've worked so hard to develop over the last three decades. All of that is really on the line this year. We need to go out there this year and take out every Democratic candidate for statewide office, all of them. Take them out this November. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator. We appreciate the remarks and the encouragement that we have from you tonight. Up next, we want to talk about our next speaker. By the way, last year, 1st District Congressman brought in Liz Cheney, the daughter of Vice President Dick Cheney, the freshman from Wyoming. And that was a great night as well. But we have a super night here going, and we're extremely proud of our 1st District Congressman, former Commissioner of Agriculture for Kentucky, someone who is a tremendous spokesperson for our Republican values. Please welcome 1st District Congressman James Comer.
Thank you all. All right. Well, thank you, Greg. And let me begin by thanking everyone that had a part in putting this together tonight. This doesn't just happen. I know it's hard to coordinate everyone that's running for statewide office and their schedule. I've been there. I know how hard it is to schedule for the candidates who are running statewide. I began my career as local party chairman in Monroe County. So I want to thank all of the grassroots activists who are here today, in addition to all the candidates who have put their names on the line to build our Republican future. So thank you for that. I appreciate Greg mentioning that last year I brought in as my guest and our keynote speaker Liz Cheney. I predicted that Liz Cheney had a bright future and that she was on a fast track to be a great leader in the Republican Party, and here we are today. She is the highest-ranking female Republican in Washington. She's the third-ranking member of the Republican minority in Washington. And I told Liz Thursday when I was leaving Washington that I was coming to this Lincoln Day dinner where she spoke last year, and she said, be sure and you tell everyone that I said hello. So I am glad to bring those well wishes from Liz Cheney. And I'm also want to recognize a Calloway County who's working with me in Washington, doing a tremendous job. You look at the young people that are here today, and you can see the future is very bright for our Republican Party in the 1st Congressional District. But I want to recognize Jacob Kramer. Jacob, stand up. Appreciate Jacob. He's our star intern right now in Washington and a product of the Calloway County Republican Party and doing great work. This has been a great few days for me. We finally had a week in Washington where I can travel in the district, and I've been spending my time going and visiting my new county judges and mayors. And luckily, they're all Republican county judges and mayors, and they're very exciting. I want to give you a progress report on just how well we have done in the Republican Party in the 1st Congressional District. And if you can visualize the 1st District, some of you know it very well, some of you probably aren't that familiar with the way the 1st Congressional District is shaped. There are 6 congressional districts in Kentucky. Some would say our congressional district is gerrymandered. I say that if it is gerrymandered, it's gerrymandered in a beautiful way, and I have no complaints with the way the lines are drawn to my friends in the state legislature. But in the 1st District, our congressional district, we have 35 counties. So just about a third of the counties in Kentucky lie in our congressional district. In those 35 counties, I am blessed to have 28 state legislators. 28 state legislators. Now, 26 of the 28 state legislators in the 1st Congressional District of Kentucky are Republican. That's 93%. The county judges' races this time, there were some historic races within those 35 counties. There were 13 counties in the 1st Congressional District that flipped. 12 of the 13 counties flipped from Democrat to Republican county judges. That's a 92% success rate. So we flipped 92%. 92% of the courthouses flipped from Democrat to Republican, and 93% of the state legislators in the 35 counties, which is basically a third of the state, are Republican. But I will be honest with you, I'm not satisfied. Leader, I'm getting like you, I want it all. So I look forward to working with everyone in this room to see that we have a 100% Republican representation in Frankfort, to go along with our 100% representation on the federal level of Republicans, because there is a difference in the parties, and we're seeing that every day that we watch TV. A couple of things that I also wanted to mention today that I'm proud of that we have accomplished in the first 2 years that I've had the great honor to be your congressman is we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So when Republicans had the opportunity to govern, when we had a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate, and we had the presidency, we passed what Republicans would expect us to do, the largest tax cuts in history. Another bill that Senator McConnell mentioned was the Farm Bill. I'm very proud of the Farm Bill. It's a piece of legislation that comes around every 5 years, and this is a Farm Bill that is good for rural Kentucky. It does things that we need in rural Kentucky, especially here in West Kentucky. It invests in rural broadband, and it creates new opportunities for new types of crops. And Senator McConnell mentioned one of those. And I can't say anything but great praise about Leader McConnell. I have to admit, I've been around a long time, and I've always followed Senator McConnell. If you go in my office, and many of you have been in my office in Washington, there's a picture of me when I was state FFA president with my first trip to Washington, probably the first time I'd ever been out of Monroe County other than in a school basketball bus. And my pictures with my senator, junior senator at the time, Mitch McConnell. And I didn't appreciate how effective Leader McConnell is. We know he's a great leader. We know he's done a lot of things, but he isn't giving himself enough credit as far as how effective he is. He has shaped the court for generations to come. He's blocked Obama's bad policies. He's working with our great president, and I appreciate that, Leader McConnell. But we have much work to do. We continue to spend too much in Washington. We have work to do on our trade agreements. I think the president has negotiated a great deal for us with Mexico and Canada, but the China trade relationship still has work to be done. And I look forward to working with the president on that and seeing the results of that. We also have to have border security in the United States. We have to stop the flow of illegal drugs and diseases that are getting into this country. And that's why last week I was proud to cast my vote in support with our President of the United States as he does what he said he was going to do when he won the election, and that's defend our borders. We're all watching with much humor and great anticipation as the Democrat primary for president shapes up. And if you look, one of the leaders in the polling is Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist. And we're not just saying, sometimes you say political things, you say someone something and they might be the man. He is a socialist, a proud socialist. And he's at the top of the polling in the Democrat primary. Bernie Sanders said on TV this week that Donald Trump was the most dangerous president in the history of the United States. And I got to thinking, who is Donald Trump dangerous to? Who would he be a danger to? And I thought, well, there are some people. Drug dealers, able-bodied Americans who sit at home and draw welfare, people who are in our country illegally, and doctors who perform live birth abortion, partial birth abortions. He would be a danger to those. So I guess there are a few people that Bernie Sanders is correct in his assessment of Donald Trump. But if you're an American tax-paying citizen, I will say with confidence that Bernie Sanders and every Democrat running for president is who I feel like is a danger to the future of America. One of the other things I wanted to mention, we talked about some of our accomplishments in the Congress, and one of the things that we do in the House is we serve on committees. And of course, I'm on the Agriculture Committee, which I will be honest, there wasn't a big line of people to get in to be on the Agriculture Committee, but it's important to me, it's important to our congressional district, and I'm proud to serve on that committee. I serve on the Education and Labor Committee. That's a committee that the Democrats have a lot of big ideas that unfortunately may squeeze through the House, but again, Senator McConnell will be there to squash them in the Senate. But the committee that I'm on that you're probably seeing a lot of here lately is the Oversight and Reform Committee. That's a committee that Jim Jordan, you see Jim Jordan a lot on TV defending our conservative values. He's what's called the ranking member, which is the top ranking Republican. Elijah Cummings is the Democrat chairman of the committee. There are 4 subcommittees on the Oversight Committee, and Congressman Jordan gets to pick the ranking members. And the first 2 ranking members he picked were Mark Meadows and me. And I am ranking member of the Environment Subcommittee, which has jurisdiction over the Interior Cabinet, the EPA, Department of Energy, which is very important in West Kentucky, agriculture. And I looked, when I got the appointment, I was really excited. There were 4 Republicans, well, 4 me and 4 others, 5 Republicans, there's 7 Democrats. And I looked and they put 2 freshman Democrats on there. I thought, who would they put that's a freshman on those subcommittees? Just 11 on the total committee membership. You've probably heard of a couple of these freshmen, or you may have. One is Ocasio-Cortez or something like that. And the other's last name is Tlaib or something like that. So we're going to have some interesting hearings in that oversight that I'm proud to stand and fight for our conservative values. Just this week, we had a full committee hearing on the Oversight Committee, and it was about the census. The census takes place next year. And the census is very important in determining congressional makeup. It's very important to determine how the state House, state Senate lines are drawn. We want to make sure we keep 6 representatives in Congress from Kentucky. And we want to know how many people are living in Kentucky, how many people live in Callaway County, and people living in America. So we've asked questions on the census. We've all filled a census out. one of the questions that the president wants to ask that I am 100% in support of, and I think just about everybody in here would be in support of it as well, is a very complicated question that was asked from 1820 to 1960, and that is, are you a legal citizen of the U.S.? I mean, I would like to know, when we talk about border security, the Democrats say, oh, we don't need border security, there aren't that many illegals living in the United States. I don't know how many illegals are living in the United States, but I want to know. So we've got a census that comes around every 10 years. Let's ask the question. The Democrats don't want to ask the question. They say it's racist. They say it'll suppress it'll suppress participation in the census. Then you get to thinking, are they trying to hide the fact that they're voting some people in states like California and Texas where they've made some gains that may not be eligible voters in the United States? So I'm going to work to see that question gets on the census, because I think that every working, tax-paying American has a right to know. Now, I will conclude with three pledges here tonight. I will continue to work with every activist in this room to see that we can continue to work and have success in electing great Republicans like we have representing us here tonight in our state legislature and in our courthouses. I will continue to vote in a conservative manner with a focus on American taxpayers. And my last pledge, and I'm very proud to say this, and I'll say this every day and every event where I attend, I will continue to stand with our president and work with him to do the things that he campaigned and won the election on, and to make America great again. Thank you all for your great support and great work for the Republican Party. Thank you.
It's okay. Jamie, I'm going to have him come back up. We have a special award we're going to make, and Jamie is going to do that for us. Yeah, it's fine.
That's what we were talking about, and I got excited. This great Republican Party in the 1st Congressional District, we have so many people that work so hard behind the scenes and never get credit. We decided to recognize at the 1st Congressional District a Young Republican of the Year. And I'm very pleased to present this award to someone that I know very well. I've watched this young man grow up. He's been an outstanding young Republican at the high school where he attended. He was very active in the Young Republicans and the college Republicans here at Murray State University. He even became student body president at Murray State University. And he's someone that is a great young Republican leader that you're going to be hearing a lot about in the future. So it's my great pleasure to present the Young Republican of the Year Award to Mr. J.T. Payne from Henderson County.
Congratulations, JT. Well, we have tonight an opportunity to hear from Matt Bevin. On November 3rd, 2015, Matt Bevin was elected the 62nd governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He was sworn into office on December the 8th, and during his inaugural address, he called for all Kentuckians to stand united and work together to make the Commonwealth the best version of itself. A former captain in the Army, small business owner, husband and father of 9, please welcome our governor, Matt Bevin.
Thank you all very much. I can now see why Leader McConnell was having trouble figuring out what we were yelling at him. It's kind of a blinding spotlight here. It's a little hard to see up here. It really is. Thanks for being here. For each and every one of you on a Saturday night, especially during March Madness season and with everything going on in your own homes, and everything else that happens as spring begins to try to emerge. To be here, to choose to be here, speaks volumes about your priorities, not only politically, but to this state and to this nation. So thank you to each and every one of you who took the time to be here tonight. I would want to draw your attention to something that's on every one of your tables. It's just the program itself. And I really just want to encourage you, please, take a look at all the names that are here. Every one of these, several of the folks that are up here have spoken about this, and it's true. Whether it's a contested primary or not, and some folks have challengers and some don't. God bless Mike Harmon and Allison Ball. They're doing something, aren't they? But seriously, but here's the wonderful thing. A lot of people have talked about this, and indeed it is true. It takes a tremendous toll on people, on individuals, on their families, on their time, on their resources to run for office. Please take the time. Some of these folks have booths outside. They have tables. They have materials. Some of them may be on your tables. But make a note of these, and if these folks are here tonight as the evening wraps up, everybody will be given a chance to speak up for a moment. If you're curious about some of these people, make a point to get to know them. I would encourage those of you that are running, work the line at the end of the room, at the end of the night at this room as people leave, because this is the greatness of America. It really is. We should never, ever, I agree with the Congressman, it's going to be fun to watch 2020 on the Democrat side at the presidential level. Sometimes it's sport for us, but it's also good for us. It's healthy. Competition is a good thing. It really is. And the greatness of America is literally embodied in this exact process. In order for of and by and for the people to work, we the people have got to take it seriously. We the people have got to be engaged. And it involves competition, both in primaries and in general elections. And I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to serve this state. Somebody asked me recently, in fact, I get it asked often by kids, actually, when I meet them at the Capitol. They say, is it fun to be the governor? No, I wish I could tell you it's a hoot. It's not. What I love about being out here, too, in Western Kentucky, there's a lot of you all that understand what it is to work on a farm. I grew up as a farm kid, a 4-H'er. I've shared this with you all before. The first time I ever flew in an airplane, I was 17. I won a trip through 4-H to go to Washington, D.C., actually. In Secretary Block, I got to give a speech to the U.S. Department of Agriculture when I was 17. Secretary John Block was the secretary back. This was in the early 80s. But anyhow, just funny how life progresses. But it's funny because when you talk to people about what it's like to be governor, the analogy that I've often given and I would share with those of you who have perhaps shared a similar rural upbringing, it's like being in the barn in the springtime. Especially if it's been a long winter, stuff just piles up. And it just, I don't need to be overly specific. I think you're with me here. But in all seriousness, I don't say this begrudgingly. I signed up for this. I agreed to run. I'm grateful that you've afforded me this opportunity. But the reality is this. This is where we are in Kentucky. This is a season of shoveling. It just is. Not only in this district, every other district, not only in this state, but in Washington. We've just heard from a couple of folks that are shoveling on our behalf up there. But specifically in Frankfort, there are any number of things that we've got to do, that we've been doing, some of which yet to be done, that just require a lot of shoveling. And so we're shoveling. We've been shoveling for 3 years and change. We'll shovel for the remainder of this year. Hope you'll give us the opportunity to shovel for 4 more years. And I really do believe at some point, some future governor is going to get to ride the pony. But I'm hoping there's a pony actually under this pile, because I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. I believe I'm hearing some whinnying coming from down in this pile somewhere. But here's the reality. This is what you elected us to do. And I want to draw attention to our Lieutenant Governor, Janine Hampton, who I really can't see now, but I know she's out here somewhere. Here she is. Thank you, Janine. She and I have been busy shoveling for the last 4 years, but we do it with a smile, and we're grateful that you have afforded us this opportunity. If you remember when I ran on what I called a blueprint for a better Kentucky, and it was advised by a lot of people, some in this room, some outside this room, a lot of wise heads, a lot of people with a lot more political knowledge than me, not to put things in writing, not to write it down, not to talk about things like pension reform, not to talk about things like right to work, not to talk about tax reform, not to talk about school choice, not to talk about cutting red tape, not talking about shrinking the size of government, none of these things. So we put all 7 of those and others as well. We put these things down in writing into what we called a blueprint for a better Kentucky. Not because they were popular or fun or even advisable from a political standpoint, but the reality is, and you know this, I mean, you're the party faithful. You're the ones who are here year in and year out. You're the ones who work the polls. You're the ones that are out knocking doors. You're the ones that are out, hanging flyers and speaking on behalf of candidates and making phone calls. And so I'm somewhat preaching to the choir. But the reality is, and so many others know, these are the things that just plain have had to be addressed for a long time. And it's not fun. On the pension front, I don't know if you've heard, we've got a pension problem in Kentucky. I don't know if any of you have heard about this. And I've had somebody say to me, well, you're just saying that for political reasons. Really? How's that working for me? I mean, how's that winner? I mean, that's the political loser if you talk about it for political reasons. We're not talking about it because it's expedient. It's not helping further people's popularity, and nobody likes it. We have a lot of legislators here. We've got people in the House and the Senate, some who've been in for years, others who are brand new to the process, and they've got their sleeves up. They're shoveling too. This is interesting. You may be aware of this. This season in Kentucky right now that we've been in for the last couple years is the first time since 1792, first time in our state's history that we have a Republican governor, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate at the same time. I mean, think about this. Remarkable. It really is. And you're the ones who made this possible. Several folks have spoken, the congressman and others, about this shift that has been happening. Jonathan, the senator, spoke about this shift that's been happening, and indeed, it's remarkable to see it. In the last, since November of 2015, if you look just in the last 3.5 years since this administration came in, we've had about, and this was through last month, so it's probably been updated a little bit more, we've had about 178,000 people register to vote for the first time. Of those 178,000 people who have registered to vote, 4,000 of them have registered as, 168,000 and change have registered as Republicans. Less than 4,000 have registered as Democrats. And here, so you literally have less than 4,000 as Democrats, 168 or whatever the difference is there as Republicans. Why is that? Here's what I know for a fact. I guarantee you there are multiple people in here who are registered Democrats. And I say sincerely, thank you for being here. You're here because of the values that are shared by so many people here in Western Kentucky. Because this isn't about party anymore. It is becoming so divided in Washington and in America when you do have people, and as the congressman mentioned, I mean, he doesn't just run as a socialist. He doesn't just say I'm a proud socialist. Bernie Sanders literally is a registered socialist and has been elected every time he's run as a socialist. He's never run as a Democrat, and yet here he is leading the Democrat charge because he's the Pied Piper of false promises that they all want to hear. I mean, without getting into a sermon here, it's like the verse in Scripture about giving itching ears what they want to hear. There's too many itching ears in America that want to hear this socialist song, and it's baloney. It's absolute baloney, and you know it. But the reality is this. These are the kind of things. Hope you're not applauding for socialism. No, just kidding. In all seriousness, think about this. I mean, that's what they have to offer. And socialism does nothing but destroy wealth. It suffocates entrepreneurs. I met a young couple here tonight. She's an OBGYN and he's an entrepreneur. They came here to, back to this state, grateful to come back for opportunity. We want entrepreneurs. We want people to come back, be willing to put seeds in the ground. It takes time. Again, a lot of farmers in this room. The germination process takes time. If you want to eat something quick, you plant Bibb lettuce and radishes, but frankly, you can only eat so many radishes before you're tired of radishes. If you want corn and you want melons and you want things that take longer, tomatoes and things of this sort, it takes time. The germination process, the cultivation process, the irrigation process, and the waiting, the hoeing, the thinning, all of it. It takes time. This is what I'm asking of you. This is what the federal delegation is asking of you. And this is what you have been responding with time and time again here in Western Kentucky. You're not voting your party as much as you're voting your values. Those values are worth fighting for. Those values are what this nation was built on. Those values are what, when we sing our national anthem, when we take the Pledge of Allegiance, and we talk about this flag that's right over here over my right shoulder, 1.5 million Americans who've died in uniform. Guys that I served with who are dead, that would have been my age, whose kids have grown up without a father, who've died in uniform in defense of this flag and what it represents. It's not the cloth, it's not the colors and the tassels, it's not that. It's the values, it's the fundamental principles, it's the Judeo-Christian principles, and it is the values of individual liberty and freedom. It's the Constitution that our founders recognized was given to us partially through their codification, but more critically, through powers that they don't have the ability to give or to take. Certain inalienable rights that were endowed by our Creator for life and for liberty and the pursuit of happiness. This is what we're about. This is why this shift is happening, because people, including those of you in Western Kentucky, recognize these things are worth fighting for. This isn't a game. Yes, there are elections. Yes, they are contested in some cases. But this isn't a game. We're not fooling around. This isn't like trying to win a popularity contest and to not pick on, homecoming kind of things. It's not that type of a thing. It's not. It's real. You've been made several mentions. Jonathan was talking about his children and that difference, the impact that a court will make on their lives when we're gone, and that is true. If ever you were going to fight, now's the time to do it. America is worth fighting for. Kentucky is worth fighting for. And this is why I wrote down things that were unpleasant and unpopular. This is why we fought for things that involve just shoveling the barn. We're going to continue to shovel. There has never been a state that has so rapidly, so powerfully, so overwhelmingly from a bipartisan standpoint stood firmly as we have here in Kentucky in the last 2 to 3 years on the side of the sanctity of human life. And I thank all of our legislators. And we should be grateful that we are in a state where the men and women that you send to Frankfurt have taken it upon themselves to move this legislation forward, to put it on my desk. This is something I'm unapologetically pro-life, unapologetically. And the idea that we have states that celebrate, whose chambers of elected officials and people who come to watch stand and celebrate at the idea of taking a child's life upon the moment it is being born, or even espousing the idea that after it's born, if the parents decide they don't want it, you let that child die, is insane to me. It's infanticide. This isn't even a function of whether it's, you're for or against abortion itself. The idea that you would stand for the taking of the life of a child is reprehensible. I'm grateful that here in Kentucky, here in Western Kentucky in particular, these values are things that you know every day. Most of you, if not all of you, will be somewhere tomorrow in a house of worship having these very same fundamental values reaffirmed. And it is such an honor for me. It's a privilege to be able to represent these values as your governor. People often look also at what's happening economically. Look at this state. Look at the jobs that are happening. We have the lowest unemployment we've ever had in Kentucky's history. But more critically than that, more importantly than that, and your congressman and others have mentioned this, it's a function of getting able-bodied working-age men and women back to work. I used to say that I wanted everyone in Kentucky that wanted a job to have a job. Now I would say that I want everyone in Kentucky to have a job whether they want one or not. I mean, really, I think that's okay. I think that's an admirable. Now, not everybody. Don't mean to scare you. If you're gainfully retired, God bless you. I don't mean you, but I'm just saying able-bodied working age men and women, like those that have been across this stage and so many of you in this room, it is insane to me that we think such people should not be expected to do something. We're the first state in America, because I fought for this since the previous administration of President Obama and now with President Trump, we finally got permission to be the first state to say, if you are an able-bodied working age man or woman with no dependents, then you will be expected to do something in exchange for free health care. Not too much to ask. Heck, half the people paying for it to be free to someone else don't even have it themselves. And yet they're out there busting their tail. So we said, you're going to have to do one of 5 different things. You're going to have to work 20 hours a week, that's all. Volunteer 20 hours a week. If you can't find a job or one's not readily available, there's plenty of volunteer opportunities. Or go to school 20 hours a week. Get training for jobs that exist 20 hours a week. Take care of somebody that otherwise the government would be paying for someone to take care of 20 hours a week. There's 5 different on-ramps to the American dream. The American dream isn't an anecdote. It's not something we read about in a history book. It's real. It's a real thing. I've been blessed to live it. So many people in this room have been blessed to live it. I want other people to have this opportunity. It was mentioned I have 9 kids. I want my kids to have that opportunity too. We want people to have the satisfaction, the dignity of doing for themselves, but there has to be opportunity. So we've busted our tails in the last 3 years to create jobs in this state. There's more people working in Kentucky than have ever been working in Kentucky in the history of Kentucky. And you're some of those people, so thank you. I mean, I'm grateful. And the best we'd ever seen in private capital invested in our state in a single year was $5.1 billion. $5.1 billion of private capital, which is a lot for a state our size. And yet 2 years ago, we had $9.2 billion in a single year. Last year, $5.3 billion. The last 2 years have been the 2 biggest years we've ever had in terms of private capital investment. This year is out of the gate strong. We have more than $12 billion worth of things in the pipeline. Not all will come. Some will. I hope we will be making an announcement in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, only to say that I think the odds are decent. And I don't know if knocking on plastic is as good as wood, but I would say this. In a small rural community, a rural county, town of 2,000 people, I hope in about 10 to 14 days to be making an announcement where there will be a company that you would know that would be coming in and starting in the weeks ahead over the next 18 months in a town of 2,000 people here in Kentucky, be employing 2,000 construction workers to build a facility well in excess of $1 billion, over $1.2 billion, that would then, upon it being completed in 18 months or so, employ 400 people full-time in that community that currently has 2,000 people, where most of those people have to travel a fair distance to get to work, 45 minutes and up, who want these jobs. I wish we could do this in every community, but here's what I'll tell you. Those jobs will pay $70,000 a year with benefits. These are good jobs, steady, deep jobs. And here's the wonderful thing. I'll tell you about one other opportunity real quickly, too, and that is I had an opportunity to go and meet with the CEO of a company after I heard that they were, this is a large global company, U.S. headquartered, I heard that they were looking to put 1,000 jobs in a particular location somewhere in America. The average pay for these jobs will be $127,000 a year. So could you imagine $100+ million annual payroll being dropped? Heck, you could drop it in any state bordering us, and we would benefit from this, let alone if you dropped it in our state. And there were 8 places in America, and we weren't one of them. And for a variety of reasons I won't bore you with, I thought we should at least be on that kind of a short list. So I went and sat down with this CEO, met with him, and maybe to humor us, maybe out of appreciation that we took the time, I don't know, they agreed to add us to be one of 9. And then they began the process. They did come, kick the tires. We put our best foot forward. They narrowed it down to 6. We were still in there. 4 still in there. 3 still in there. It's down to 2. It's us and one other place. And it's a tremendously formidable competitor. We may not get it, but I think the odds are decent that we will. And what we've done is we've just gone out and worked our tails off. This is what you elected us to do. This is what you should expect from everybody, whether it's in my position, those that go to serve you in the legislature, those that go to serve us in Washington. It's about getting out there and doing the work, rolling up our sleeves. Thomas Edison, the guy that invented what's now burning my retinas out at this moment, once said very astutely, he said, I'm going to stumble off the stage, I'm going to be like, but Thomas Edison said most people in life miss opportunity because it usually shows up in overalls and looks like hard work. A lot of truth in that, a lot of truth in that. People of Western Kentucky understand a thing or two about hard work, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that you've given me that opportunity. And I would say this, I'll wrap up here with a couple of thoughts. One is that as you decide in 2019 who you're going to elect, you'll have choices. You have choices in this primary, you'll have choices in the general. I would encourage you to ask yourself, do the homework, get to know each one of these candidates, and then ask yourself at the end of the day, one of these folks that's running for governor, and it will be the same for attorney general, for treasurer, for agricultural commissioner, for auditor, for attorney general. But as it relates to governor, which is an executive position, which is, as was noted by Leader McConnell, is a position that has to actually do stuff, get stuff done. It's the nature of the job. Who among those people that are running would you want on the other side of the table negotiating for you? Negotiating with the CEOs of companies that would want to move here and or expand here? Who would you trust, frankly, to run your own business if you had to leave your business to one of the candidates for a week or a month or a year? Who would you trust to look out for the livelihood of your employees, of your community, of your family? It's as simple as that, really, in some measure, because only one person who's running will be the next governor. Only one. There is no perfect candidate. I'll myself prime among them. There isn't one. There never will be one. You're never going to have a perfect candidate or one that will always make you happy, even as a candidate or when they're doing the job. But only one will be in that job, and only one can advocate on behalf of Kentucky. And I would ask you to think about that seriously, because if you wouldn't trust somebody to run your business or take care of your family in your absence, you probably shouldn't trust them to run the state. These are big decisions. There is much. The senator's right. We should be running the table. There's no reason why we can't run the table with these positions. It's never happened in the state of Kentucky. We've never had all the constitutional positions, the House, the Senate, and the governorship. But I think this year we could see that happen. I really do. But it's going to happen if you all are the ones that get out and make it happen. I want to close with two quotes, and then I'm going to ask the fellow that I'm running with, who you have not yet met, for many of you, to take a moment and introduce himself from this stage. His name is Ralph Alvarado. He's a state senator. He's a medical doctor. He'll tell you in a couple of minutes his story. But I want to close with two quotes by these two guys right here. And I'm struck by it as their faces are here. It's very appropriate. This man, Ronald Reagan, many of you, certainly those of us of a certain age, remember in the early 1980s. There was a lot of unrest. He had just come in. There was a bombing in the Middle East in Beirut. And his response was immediate, and it was powerful. Not immediate, but pretty swift. And he said he came on America's network, television and radio that night. He spoke to the American people. He said a variety of things, but among other things, he said this. He said, "Tonight we did what we had to do. They counted on America to be passive. They counted wrong." How blessed we are for the first time since that time to have a president of the United States who thinks the same way, really and truly. I'm grateful to be good friends with our current president. And it's funny, and you probably know this too, he really does like to just chat. He really does. He'll just call you up and just talk for 15, 20 minutes about things that are topics of the day and just life in general. He is the most accessible, how many of you heard on your radio waves and your inboxes in this last election cycle got a message on behalf of somebody that was running for the legislature here in Kentucky? How many of you got a robocall or a radio ad? A number of you. This was the only state in America. And Senator McConnell, you and I were in the car with him when I was working him. The senator is more professional than me, I think, in terms of a lot of things, actually. But it was funny. He was looking at me like, wow, you're really putting the squeeze on this guy. But we happened to have a moment where it was just the three of us in the president's car, and I said, hey, you know what? We've got this crowd that wants to reverse what you all have done in Frankfurt in 2016. They want to reverse it in 2018. I said, wouldn't it be awesome if you'd be willing to make some calls, robocalls and radio ads on behalf of state legislators? And he was open to the idea. Some of his staff was a little less excited at the idea. But I will say this, at the end of the day, across this state, he wouldn't do it for everyone, and they helped to winnow a list that we had given him that was a bit longer for reasons I didn't know. I didn't want to, beggars can't be choosers. But for 29 people running for House and Senate, 29 different people, he did personally individualized calls for these folks. This was the only state in America where he did that. There wasn't another state in America where he made a call on behalf of a state legislative candidate. This is the kind of president we have. He gets stuff done. And I will say this about him. And I've gotten to know him and his family, his daughter and son-in-law in particular. They get things done. Why? Because they love America. He genuinely loves America. And does he have a methodology that seems to irritate some? Wah. You know, I mean, seriously. The point is he gets stuff done, really and truly. Come on. I mean, really. This is a guy who gets stuff done, and he does it for the right reasons. I'll continue to take full advantage of that and the friendships that we have with the vice president and our leaders in our congressional delegation. You need this in this seat. The last guy I want to quote is this guy right here to my left, Abraham Lincoln, the father of this party in almost every respect. He's a guy who said, "Good things may come to those who wait, but only the things left behind by those who hustle." How great a quote is that? Just the idea of him saying hustle is actually kind of cool. It really is. But you think about the truth in that. The truth in this. The Democrats, the socialists, the people who think that we're getting comfortable, they're counting on America to be passive. They're counting on us not to hustle. I'm begging you, please, knock doors like you have never knocked doors. Make phone calls like you've never made phone calls. Write checks in support of people like you never have. Talk to 1, 3, 5, 10, 50, 100 other people. Every one of you in this room is somebody that all your friends come to 2 minutes, 2 hours, or 2 days before the elections are being held and said, "Who should I vote for?" You're those people. Reach them in advance. You have this powerful tool. Use it. Can be used for good or bad. The other side uses it well. Take pictures with candidates, those that you're supporting. Push these out. Tell people why you're voting, why it matters. Don't become apathetic. Don't become passive. Hustle, hustle, hustle. We can win. We can win overwhelmingly. We can sweep the board. This is ours to lose. Let's not lose it in 2019, 2020, or the years beyond that. The tide is turning in Kentucky. Great things are ahead of us. The future is bright indeed. Please help me welcome Ralph Alvarado for a word.
Well, good evening. Yeah, those lights do burn out your retinas, Governor, I have to admit. Well, it's absolutely my honor to be here with you tonight. My name is Ralph Alvarado. I currently serve in the state senate in the 28th district. That's Clark and Montgomery counties and also northern Fayette counties. I'm accompanied by far my better half, my wife Dawn, who's a saint and has put up with me in running for office in the past. I think a little bit I'll talk about tonight is people often want to know a little bit about me, and I think one of the things that a lot of folks don't know is that I've run for office several times. I think a lot of the journey of how I started as a doctor and running for office was, got out of residency. I was a doc. I was in that track of trying to become a physician, wasn't really engaged in politics and the thoughts about doing door-to-door knocking. I was always a Republican, always voted for Republican folks. But when the opportunity came, when I was in private practice, I started realizing, hey, you know, state government and local government does impact my life quite a bit. Medical tort reform was an opportunity, was trying to get done. I remember calling my state senator and saying, I'd like you to vote for this issue, and the individual instead didn't vote at all. And it angered me, and I told my wife I need to get more involved. Someone was knocking on our front door in 2003 for Governor Ernie Fletcher when he was running for office. My wife was home with the kids. I was at work, and she said, yeah, we're Republicans. Put your yard sign out there, and by the way, my husband wants to get more involved. Well, that individual was the local party chairman, who then called me and said, hey, listen, want to get involved? How about running for state office? I said, yeah, let me get out there. I'll do this stuff. I'll run it because we need you to run for state house. So in 2004, I ran for state house, ran a strong race, lost by 4 points. I was a trading chip. They wanted a Republican judge executive, and I was the trading chip to make sure that the Democrat could get in and the Republican judge executive could win in Clark County. 2 years later, decided to run again in 2006. We all know that was a rough year for Republicans. It got absolutely crushed by 20 points. The weekend after the campaign was done, I thought, I'm done. A last name like Alvarado isn't going to do well in Kentucky. And as I left the house, I looked in the rearview mirror and realized that someone had spray painted the N-word on the front of my house as I was leaving. I could tell you that wasn't done by Republicans in my community. And I thought we were done. My wife was scared. My mom, who lives with us, was scared. My kids, who were 6 and 8, said, Dad, what is that word? What does that mean? Why was that put on our home? I was angry having that conversation with him. 2010, the party called and said, hey, Alvarado, we want you to run for state senate. Why don't you get engaged? I said, guys, I don't think I can win. Got a last name. I don't think it's going to be very popular. Not a typical Kentucky name. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of time, money. And they said, well, go think about it. And I went home and my wife and I prayed about it, which is something we hadn't done the first couple times we had run. And I asked God for an obvious sign. And I thought, God's not going to answer that kind of a prayer. I remember going to church 2 weeks before the filing deadline, and our pastor preached a sermon that hit me in the gut, hit my wife in the gut. And I thought, man, this is not what I wanted to hear. And we filed and we ran a good race, had a primary, had a general election, and lost again. And I thought, why did I have to go through all this stuff? And in 2014, the party said, we're going to change your district, want you to run again. My wife said, please, this is the last time, no more. Get it out of your system and be done. Filed to run. She got diagnosed with breast cancer in March of that year, thought about dropping out. And she said, nope, you've made me a promise, you're going to finish this out, and this is going to be it. My opponent ran a kind of a campaign against me, calling me a drug dealer, took a video and spliced it, make it look like I was doing something that I wasn't doing. We wound up suing, and we wound up winning that race. We were down by 26 points in the summer, and I thought, what am I doing getting involved again? We wound up winning by 6 points. And from that, we wound up realizing kind of a whirlwind of activity for me once we got in office. A lot of my colleagues from the state senator here, they know that I've earned the reputation of being a guy who files a lot of bills. And I had my leadership call me in at one time and said, hey, Alvarado, you're done filing bills, enough of this. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And I told them, that's the problem, is that people are tired of watching marathons from government. They want to see government work, and they want to see a sprint, want people working and getting things accomplished and getting things done. And got a lot of those bills accomplished that year. Only to see that from there, to be invited to go speak at the National Convention in 2016. And so a lot of things have happened that I never would have dreamt that would have happened to a kid who's a son of immigrants. And a lot of people wonder, how did you as a doctor get engaged in politics? And like I mentioned, my father came from Costa Rica, my mom from Argentina. They're both immigrants to this country. They came here legally, and they were professionals in their own country of their own type. But once they came here, they saw the opportunities that America could provide them. And once they came here, they started a life. They met here in the States, started a life together. My father always instilled a pride for this country. And I spent my 18th birthday, I remember my father taking me to the post office to sign up for selective service to make sure that if your country ever calls you, that you're going to serve, that you're going to be there when your country calls you. My parents taught me a lot of things in life. They taught me to speak from the heart, and they taught me to fight by principles and the things that I stand for. They often talked about dating when you're a young man and said, sometimes it's more important to be respected than to be loved or be popular. And I think that's advice that can apply to politics right now in Kentucky more than ever. We've got a lot of our politicians right now who are paralyzed by their desire for popularity. They want to say yes and be popular and loved rather than saying no when no is sometimes required. Governor Bevin and I have chosen to lead not by avoiding truths, especially hard ones that we have right now, but by facing them and being better for it. And Kentucky is better for it. And really, it's really simple, folks, that we need politicians to care more about doing something rather than being something. Real leadership delivers, real leadership counts, and real leadership matters. And Governor Bevin's a real leader, and he'll lead with conviction, and as his running mate, I pledge to do the same. I know when he first asked me to do this, I was humbled, I was surprised, and I know I have very big shoes to fill. I know the Lieutenant Governor's here tonight. I want to thank you for the amount of effort that you've put in this office. You've left very big shoes for the next person to fill, and I'm only hoping to be able to get in just a little bit of that size of that as well. I'm ready to stand side along the governor to continue this economic trajectory that we're on with all the job creation. I'm willing to stand with him for workforce development, for our educational system, and also for our healthcare system, which is getting better. And I'm asking for all of you to stand with us as well. It's really my honor here, and I want to preserve and enhance what Kentucky has to offer. We know the jewel of a state that we live in. We want to make sure that the rest of the country knows it and become one of the top destinations for people to come and raise their families and invest their businesses here. Thank you so much for hosting us tonight. It's really my honor and my privilege. Looking forward to working with all of you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. We appreciate the opportunity to hear from you tonight. I wanted to give a shout out to some of our leaders in the Republican Party. One of those individuals is here tonight. It's Mac Brown, and he's our chairman of the Republican Party in Kentucky. Also, our 1st District committee members that are here tonight. Rick Grana, would you please stand from Paducah? Willie Cooper from Hopkinsville. Keith Travis from Marshall County. And our 1st District Youth Chair, Corey Elder, is here somewhere. Corey, where are you? Thank you very much. Well, we have a number of state representatives and senators here tonight. I want to get a quick shout out to them as well. District State Senator for the 1st District is Stan Humphrey. Stan, you're here, aren't you? 2nd District State Senator Danny Carroll is here tonight. Driving down from Henderson, the 4th District State Senator Robbie Mills. Our 1st District State Rep Steve Root, I don't think Stephen is here, but 2nd District State Representative Richard Heath from Graves County is here. 4th District State Representative Lynn Beckler from Caldwell, Christian, Crittenden, and Livingston. Newly elected 5th District State Representative Larry Elkins from Callaway County. Sixth District State Representative Chris Freeland from Lyon, Marshall, McCracken County. And I believe 29th District State Representative Kevin Bratcher is here tonight as well, right? Is he here tonight? I can't see. And I may have missed a state rep here or there, and I apologize if I did. So is there anybody else representing the state of Kentucky in the House or Senate here tonight? All right, and we'll get to you in just a minute, Mr. Goforth. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much for your service and being with us this evening. One thing that I have just a short little paragraph from our rules, and it's short, I promise. But I wanted to read this tonight because I think it is about the party so much, that we are the party of the open door. As our governor said, as Republicans, we are and must be committed to encouraging the broadest possible participation in the affairs of our party. We must and we do encourage every Kentuckian to seek that level of party leadership for which his or her talents and energy recommend them. No false distinctions of age, race, sex, or religion shall bar anyone from any party position. Devotion to our party's principles and loyalty to its candidates are and should be the only qualifications for holding any position in the Republican Party, the party of the open door. And I want to bring up our candidates now. We're going to start with our gubernatorial candidates that are here tonight. And if they would come forth here, we're going to start with Robert Goforth. And Robert, would you please come up? Let's hear for Robert Goforth.
Wow, those lights are bright, aren't they? Wow. Well, as he said, I'm Robert Goforth. I am the state representative for the 89th House District. And I don't know if you got to see the background video, but if you didn't, please go to my Facebook page or my website, and that way you can learn a little bit more about me. But I'm the state representative for the 89th House District, Laurel, Jackson, and Madison counties. I'm here tonight with my running mate for Lieutenant Governor, Mike Hogan. He's a 5-time consecutively elected county attorney from Lawrence County. We're both U.S. Army veterans, both rooted deeply here in Kentucky, raised very humble and very poor in eastern Kentucky. But we didn't let that define us, and that's led us here today. So I'm running for governor for several reasons, but I'm running for governor because I believe that Kentucky Republicans deserve a choice. I believe that, with all due respect to the current governor and the leader McConnell, with all due respect, at a 27% or less approval rating, it will be virtually impossible for this current governor to win a general election. I agree with Governor Bevin on quite a few things, such as the right to life. That's why I was the first legislator in the House to file the fetal heartbeat bill, which would ban abortion after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. I also support our Second Amendment rights. That's why I filed House Bill 30, so you would never be defenseless in the Commonwealth anywhere that you go. but we have stark differences. I do not support expanded gambling in Kentucky, and I would not allow it to continue to prey on the poorest and most vulnerable in our Commonwealth, as this current administration has done. Also, we must not reject a conservative law and order approach to criminal justice. This get out of jail free card to criminals who belong behind bars, it's just wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. We must find a better way to communicate with our teachers and our state employees as we solve our pension systems. Scaring them to death and acting like one man alone has all the answers to all of our problems hasn't worked, and it will not work. We can fix our pension systems in a way that is fair and just to all, while ensuring economic security to all teachers and public employees. Now, Governor Bevin continuously says he funded the pensions, fully funded the pensions, but that's just not so. The legislature funds the pensions. He actually vetoed the bill that funded the pensions last year that we had to override. So he doesn't fund the pensions, and he hasn't funded the pensions. He vetoed that bill. But folks, we can be pro-business and pro-labor at the same time. We just have to make sure that some of the breaks go to those in the break room and not just the boardroom. And he said he knows business. I know business, folks. I know business because I've built businesses from the ground up, put numerous people to work in some of the poorest counties of our Commonwealth, from zero to tens of millions in sales, and put millions of payroll dollars back in our poorest communities. Economic growth is more than just press conferences and promises. I submit to you that I am the fresh conservative voice that can ensure a Republican victory in November, along with my running mate, Mike Hogan, who I'll keep for all 4 years, I promise, and if he wants, if we run for a second term, for both terms. Together, we can replace this New England and Wall Street agenda with a governor from Kentucky and Main Street. And we can win in November. We already have almost $1 million in our campaign account, and we're raising more money every single day. So I thank you for listening to me. I humbly ask you, and I appreciate if you would consider voting for us on May 21st. Thank you, and may God bless you.
I should have mentioned, and I'm not trying to encroach upon these speakers here, but we tried to give them 2 to 3 minutes, and so that's why I'm here to keep it as fair as possible. All right, and next, Ike Lawrence is coming to the platform here to speak to us. Ike, if you would, please. Let's hear it for Ike, please.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Right. Thank you all. What I wanted to do is get away from the negative that may come down the road, but I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed meeting Governor Bevin a few times in the past 3 years. I think he's done an exceptional job with what he's been given. Also, I want to congratulate Robert for all that he's done prior to becoming our legislator, the family that he's raising, 4 children and a brother who's handicapped. Also want to congratulate Governor Bevin for his wonderful family of 10 children into his life, into his heart, and into his home with his wife Glenna. I too am a family man, just like you all. And I want to say that what makes us common here are not just values, it's family values. And I can't tell you how important it is, and how important it was me for my 43 years of providing for a family, raising 3 children, taking care of a schizophrenic brother for 35 years, because all of us have things in our family, up and beyond things that are happening well. We are all distressed about the things that we're concerned about. So to all of us, to Robert and to Matt, and to all of you who have stuck things out through good and thin, like me and my wife have, I thank you for all the things that you have done, because we are family. Because once we have who the winners are of these non-constitutional races, we are going to support as family those 9 winners. And if it's not me or Robert, and it's Governor Bevin, we are going to support him, and hopefully he will look at some of the ideas that Robert and I bring to the table, or any of you all want to share with us that you would like to see changed to any three of us as candidates. We need to listen to each other and support whoever wins after May 21st, those 9 people, and bring home the prize in November. To all of you who are veterans, like Matt and Robert are, I am not. I thank you for your service. This is the greatest country ever in the history of man, and it couldn't be done by you all signing up, and not only you all signing up, but those that support you, those wives, those spouses, those children, those brothers, those sisters, those parents who supported you all, former military and now veterans. We thank you for what you have done for this great country. There are 3 people I want to also acknowledge. You will see in my simple business card a website which is basically looks like this. It's my accomplishments and my ideas. Some are business related, most of them are volunteer related. How many things I've gotten done in the past 40 years, over 40 things that I have fixed. The most recent one was $200 million I saved the city of Lexington and not moving out of our government buildings. I'd like to be your all's candidate as the Tea Party. There are 3 people, before I have to sit down, there are 3 people I'd like you to look up in my website. Dan Rose with drug interdiction, his ideas, including 9 others. Jim Waters on the pension and his notion that we need to include overpromises in the discussion with underfunding. And also Mitch Daniels, former governor of Indiana, Mitch Daniels, president of Purdue, who has not had a tuition increase in 7 years. We need to get our universities under control and look at Mitch Daniels and what he's done at Purdue. May 21st, please consider me as your candidate for governor. Thank you very much.
That was my timer right there. My phone. All right, I'll pick it up. We're going to jump to the Commissioner of Agriculture candidates, and coming forward first is Ryan Quarles. Ryan?
Thank you and good evening. My name is Commissioner Ryan Quarles. I am running for re-election, and let me be the first one to tell you, happy National Agriculture Week. And no one gets agriculture better in our state than the 1st District, because agriculture here is big money and it's a dominant part of your local economy. I'm running for re-election because I love my job, we're making a difference, and we have run a Department of Agriculture that can make Kentucky proud. And speaking of Kentucky Proud, we've grown the program to have over 8,000 Kentuckians using the Kentucky Proud banner to sell their goods and services. We've gotten beef into our grocery stores in a significant way. And here at Murray State University, we financially support critical research with Dean Brannon with agriculture right here in West Kentucky. We've also raised over $1.8 million for Kentucky 4-H and FFA to make sure we invest in the future of Kentucky agriculture. My administration has helped open up trade with the People's Republic of China for our signature horse industry, and more corn than ever in our state's history is being liquefied into Kentucky bourbon than ever before, to the tune of over 9 million bushels each year, giving another installation and a premium to our Kentucky corn farmers each and every year. I am proud of our president. I'm proud to serve as co-chair of President Trump's Agriculture Advisory Board, and I'm so proud of your Congressman James Comer, the early support of Rand Paul, and Leader McConnell for giving Kentucky a chance to bring back a crop for the first time in over 70 years, to bring industrial hemp back to its natural home right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you for your all's leadership. And speaking of which, now that it's legal, we have seen a 500% increase in the number of farmers wanting to grow hemp, from 200 and some last year to over 1,000 Kentucky farmers sharing the opportunity to grow this crop that connects our past to the future. And now we have over 120 hemp companies employing people, making money, and selling products legally to Americans who want to buy them. And right here in West Kentucky, you all have some major investment by many different hemp companies, including Gincana, which is investing over $80 million just in the purchase area. So we want to make sure that this area of the state flourishes from industrial hemp like others as well. At the gas pump, we continue to work with the United States Secret Service to cut down on criminals who are preying on vulnerable Kentuckians by stealing credit cards. And each month we catch about one skimmer, and we've prevented tens of thousands of dollars of credit card theft here in Kentucky. We've also been running the Department of Agriculture in a fiscally conservative way. We have cut the budget 6 times in 3 years, reduced our vehicle fleet by 10%, and we return money to the Treasury. In closing, it's an honor to serve you. It's an honor to work with those representing you in Frankfort, and I'm proud to announce the endorsements of Judge Kenny Ines, Representative Elkins, Beckler, Freeland, Bridges, Senator Humphreys, Senator Robbie Mills, Senator Carroll, and your Agriculture Committee Chairman in the House, Richard Heath, who is a strong voice for Kentucky agriculture, someone who signed my filing paperwork for re-election. You are fortunate to have someone of his caliber representing Kentucky agriculture in Frankfort. I ask for your vote on May 21st, and let's continue to run a department that makes Kentucky proud. Thank you.
Well, I debated on the pronunciation of the name, and I think it's Poliniak. Okay, all right. And so up next is running for Ag Commissioner is Bill Poliniak.
Thank you. Well, that is a bright light. I am Bill Poliniak. I am running for Commissioner of Agriculture, but I want to take a second to do something that I haven't really been able to do. I got 2 gentlemen in the room that I owe a world of thanks to. My wife and I would like to extend our thanks to now Congressman James Comer and Senator Mitch McConnell for your hard efforts and work of getting hemp back in Kentucky. It's really important to me because in 2014, then Commissioner Comer blessed me in a meeting we had, a chance meeting, when he allowed me to become the 5th participant in then the hemp pilot program. And it was really special to me, long story short, because at that time everybody was talking about fiber and hemp seed oil. And my son right here, which I'd like to make sure everybody has one of these cards when you go home tonight, if I can get it off here. My youngest son right here, Colton, when he was 3 years old in Lexington, he had his first of several hundred seizures. And the only solution we had was pharmaceuticals. And just like the pharmaceuticals we see many children on in school today, many of our residents, many of our statesmen are on, those same kind of pharmaceuticals my child was on. And he was on so many pharmaceuticals that one day we were hours away from complete organ failure and losing him. And so through research and studying and a blessed meeting I had with then Commissioner Comer, he allowed me to start growing hemp for cannabidiol oil, CBD oil. And I'm sure most people in the room have heard of it today. And that's because of the chance that then Commissioner Comer took. He was bold to listen to somebody. As your Commissioner of Agriculture, I'll listen to you farmers. I know what it's like to have to go sell something to somebody and it not be the most fun thing to talk about. Everybody thinks you're a little funny for talking about hemp or something. But once again, let's make no bones about it. We have saved thousands of lives. Thousands of people have got off pharmaceuticals, children and seniors. Kentucky's really started to lead the way on this. But we stubbed our toe. Elections have consequences, and we took a different path. Instead of under the mindset where we started in 2014, which has been the constant mindset the whole time, that the state's got the power to promulgate the laws and follow them, and the feds would respect them, we changed that mindset, and now we destroy hemp. We burn hemp that's helping babies. And this is a right to life issue to me, and right to life is from womb to tomb. And we shouldn't sit quiet while we have doctors prescribing dangerous pharmaceuticals to children that our Medicare, Medicaid systems are paying for, when we have something that farmers can produce. So as your Commissioner of Agriculture, I will work hard with state legislators and representatives to get them the truth so they can make the right decisions. And it's the same thing with dairy and beef. Our problems are not the market, it's our policies. We send all our beef west. As soon as we put it on the truck, it starts losing money. It drops foot in Oklahoma or Texas or Colorado, and our beef is worth more there than it is here. I will work hard, and instead of attracting outside influence people, I'll work with Kentucky farmers to expand opportunity. Once again, I'll be standing over here. I'd like to get you one of these. My name's Bill Polinack. Please check out billforkentucky.com. I'd appreciate your vote and support on May 21st. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well, as has been stated, there are a couple of places that we need Republicans in. One is our Attorney General's office, for sure, right? We have two candidates here tonight. First, Daniel Cameron will come up, and then Will Schroeder. Daniel?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here in the 1st District with you tonight, and I want to take a note. I am so proud, so honored to be a part of a party that prays at the beginning of every meeting. I think it says a lot about this party, and I think it says that we love Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and I'm proud to be a part of a party of this nature. I am running for Kentucky Attorney General, and I ask for your vote on May 21. I ask for your vote on May 21 because this is the critical office. This is the office of ultimate action as it relates to the public safety challenge of our lifetime, and that is the drug epidemic. And I think that Andy Beshear has squandered. He has squandered his opportunity to be the leading voice on this issue. He has abdicated his responsibility as it relates to this issue and to the public safety interest of all the men and women and children of all 120 counties. And I think that we need an Attorney General that has a strong relationship with law enforcement. Instead, what Andy Beshear has opted to do is fight the governor at every turn on every piece of critical legislation that is passed out of the General Assembly. And we cannot afford another 4 years of that sort of activity out of the Attorney General's office. It is important, it is incumbent upon the Office of Attorney General that he be the chief law enforcement officer. And I have the relationships. I served as Senator McConnell's general counsel in Washington, D.C. for 2.5 years. During that period of time, I was a part of the team that helped confirm Neil Gorsuch to the United States Supreme Court. And in addition to that, I worked very closely with Kentucky law enforcement. I worked closely with the Kentucky Sheriff's Association, the Kentucky Narcotics Officers Association, all of these law enforcement groups within the law enforcement community that have been trying to get a handle on the drug epidemic, and I think it's the responsible thing to do to find somebody within this primary process that has those relationships that can move in on day one. And I hope that we will not, in November, give up an opportunity to beat Greg Stumbo. I think I'm the candidate to beat him in November, and I think I'm the best candidate to get out of this primary on May 21. I think there's a reason. We have not had a Republican Attorney General since 1948. There's a reason that we do not have pension reform. There's a reason that we do not have tort reform, and there's a reason that we do not have a pro-life advocate in the AG's office right now. It's because for Andy Beshear, AG has not meant Attorney General, it has meant aspiring governor. And I think it is... And I think that we cannot afford to have the values of New York or the values of Virginia creep into Kentucky as it relates to abortion. And I'm here to tell you right now that if I'm the Attorney General, those values will not creep into the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So I ask for your vote on May 21. I think I am the best candidate to go into the fall with. The Democratic Party is tired. They are stale as it relates to their candidates. Greg Stumbo is a retread. He is a recycled part. We have an opportunity within the Republican Party to espouse on May 22nd, the day after the primary, that we are the party of Lincoln, that we are the party of progress and power and of the future here in Kentucky. And I hope that you will give me the opportunity to be that candidate as we move into the fall. So thank you. Again, my name is Daniel Cameron, and I'm running for Attorney General, and I ask for your consideration and support on May 21.
Will Schroeder.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Will Schroeder, and I'm running to be your next Attorney General. Now, Kentucky hasn't had a Republican Attorney General for over 70 years. We can change that. We can make Attorney General great again here in Kentucky, and we will. In order to do that, though, we need a candidate who has the right experience and a proven record of defending conservative values. I'm the only candidate in this race that has been a prosecutor. As Kentucky's chief law enforcement officer and top prosecutor, it is crucial that we elect someone who has that experience as a prosecutor. I work side by side with our men and women in law enforcement to prosecute criminals, including drug traffickers, and work with ICE officers when it comes to illegal immigration. I'm also the only candidate in this race who's won elections. Greg Stumbo is recycled, but he's not going to be easy. He's going to put up a fight, and we need a fighter. I won in 2014 in a three-way Republican primary with more votes than both of my opponents combined. I went on to win that election with over 60% of the vote. And this last election cycle, when the Democrats threw everything they could at me, including outside money, I ended up with more votes than I did in 2014. I can win, and I will win. I'm also the only candidate that has a position of leadership. In the Kentucky State Senate, I serve as the chairman of the State and Local Government Committee, the busiest committee in the State Senate in a non-budget year. And I'm proud to have the support of 26 of my fellow Republican colleagues, including Senator Stan Humphreys, Senator Danny Carroll, and Senator Robbie Mills. And ladies and gentlemen, I thank God that I get to serve with good men and women who represent Kentucky values and not state like New York or Virginia, where we've seen. As your next Attorney General, I will represent Kentucky values of faith, family, and freedom. Faith. I'm 100% pro-life, and I've been a part of passing the strongest pro-life legislation in the Commonwealth of Kentucky's history. We need a pro-life Attorney General, no doubt about it. I will be that voice for the voiceless, and I will stand up for the unborn. When it comes to families, last year over 30,000 meth cases. We need a prosecutor who has that experience punishing drug traffickers. And our president is right. This is a border issue that is impacting the Commonwealth of Kentucky when drugs come into our Commonwealth. Like, no doubt about it. It's a Kentucky issue. And when it comes to freedoms, our current Attorney General, Andy Beshear, has sat on the sidelines when it comes to your First and Second Amendment rights. That will change with me in the Attorney General's office. And you can be sure that no matter who is in Washington, D.C., your Second Amendment rights are protected here in the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, back home, I have a lovely wife and high school sweetheart, Marcy. And we have 2 children. Grace is 2.5, my son Trey, who's 9 months. And our children, for us, serve as a constant reminder just what is at stake for Kentucky's future and what is worth fighting for. I ask for your consideration, and I hope to earn your vote on May 21st, because we need a candidate that has the right experience and conservative track record to beat Greg Stumbo in the fall. Thank you.
Well, I figured out why no one will run against Mike Harmon. It's because they just don't have as good of jokes. Mike Harmon, our State Auditor of Public Accounts.
Woo! The governor was right. I feel like I'm being interrogated. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, it's good to see everybody here tonight. Well, these are exciting times. All of us are traveling to the state. We're following these Lincoln Day dinners, and they're wonderful things. And to be honest with you, sometimes we run into some of the problems. I don't know if y'all heard, but a couple of weeks ago I was coming back from Pike County and just happened to be diverted away from a mudslide. Unfortunately, I got diverted away from a mudslide right into high water, so I lost my car. Now, I want to tell you just a little bit about it. I ended up taking my shoes off. I was going to try to get my car out, and I won't have enough time to go with all of it. But somewhere during the process, I ended up, rest of us ended up in like a little rescue area. Now remember, I've got a full suit, a tie, wet socks, no shoes, because I didn't get my shoes. But everywhere I went ahead and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Mike Harmon, Kentucky State Auditor. Hi, I'm Mike Harmon, Kentucky State Auditor. And one lady said, Mike Harmon. I said, we got a Mike Harmon. I said, you do? Said, yeah, but he's a mortician. I looked at her and I said, well, that's where we differ. Everybody's dying to see him. No one's dying to see the auditor. So somehow or another, Representative Blanton, who I'm really thankful, he coordinated us staying at a bed and breakfast. And before we went there, the fellow took us up to Speedway. And like I said, everywhere I went, I was shaking hands saying, hi, I'm Mike Harmon, Kentucky State Auditor. But I still, remember, full suit, tie, no shoes, wet socks. Well, I hear the guy at Speedway, I hear him get on the phone. He says, guess what? We've got the Kentucky State Auditor here. And he pauses and he says, and he doesn't have any shoes on. So anyway, we've had some exciting times. You know, I've been really blessed to be your Kentucky State Auditor. I thank you all put me in back in 2015 in our David and Goliath situation. The moment I went in, I told all our auditors, we're not going to target anyone, we're not going to give anybody a pass, we're just simply going to follow the data, and that's what we've done. We've had some wonderful audits. I would encourage you to go to my website at mikeharmon.com where we've got some of those. Just a handful of them. We did the first ever audit of AOC, and that's not the one that you're working with, Congressman. It's the Administrative Office of the Courts. You know, one of the unfortunate things we found, we had 20 findings, and they had actually, the Administrative Office of Courts had actually leased space for one of the justices from two of his sons, a company owned by two of his sons that happened to be 3 times the next closest bid. We also did an audit of Kentucky Wire. We're unfortunately on the way out. Governor Beshear, on his way out, flipped the script on the taxpayers and took us from $30 million to $1.5 billion, that's billion with a B, on some basically on lines that has not delivered the first bit of data. We also just recently published our debt bulletin. We were talking about pensions earlier tonight. Our total debt, just the state, is around $54.6 billion, but about 80% of that is the unfunded pension liability. It's about $43.3 billion. If you divide that $54.6 billion by every man, woman, child in this state, that's about $12,300 for each of you. Now, as I get ready to leave, I'll get a check from each of you. We'll make sure we get that taken care of. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm going to conclude with saying this. Now, I don't have a primary myself. I know a lot of us do. And like it was said earlier, we've got to come together. I mean, we've got to continue putting this state in the direction it needs to go. We've got to set aside any of our concerns, and we've just got to make sure that we keep this state going in the right direction. We've come a long way. I know I served with Congressman McConnell. We were both in the House, and I'm so happy to see where he's gone, and I'm so happy to see where the House has gone. MikeHarmon.com. Please take a look at it. If y'all have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Thank you all, and God bless.
And now we'd like to hear from Allison Ball, our state treasurer. Allison?
Well, I am your current Kentucky State Treasurer, and like you heard earlier, I do not have a primary, so I am your Republican nominee for Kentucky State Treasurer. And one thing that's really exciting about these type of evenings right now is that we actually do have primaries. It's so fantastic for us as a party that we are big enough and we're strong enough and we have primaries, but that also means that I have to remind you about me in the fall. So as you're deciding all of these important decisions about these other races, don't forget the State Treasurer's race in the fall. Don't forget mine. And let me tell you real quick why the state treasurer is important. So as you're talking to people as we move closer to that fall election, tell people that this job is supposed to be that watchdog role on our taxpayer dollars. And that's what I've done as state treasurer. I'm an attorney by background, so I review things and I make sure whatever comes out of my office, I work hard to make sure that it is in line with the law, it's in line with the Constitution, it's in line with regulations, statutes. I make sure of that, and I've actually stopped spending out of my office. And that's something the treasurer is supposed to do. Not all treasurers have done that. It's been done in the past, but it's not been done in a while, and that's something that I reinstituted in this office, that I make sure that is done. And something that happened right before Christmas that you might not know about, because when things happen before Christmas, sometimes you miss them, but I also caught a very sophisticated cybersecurity attack on the Commonwealth of Kentucky in the amount of about $5.3 million. And it's because I have my staff go through a lot of training to be state-of-the-art prepared and ready for when these type of attacks come, because you know that they come. We're in a world right now where those things happen. So that's part of my role as that watchdog on our taxpayer dollars, and I want to keep doing it. It's an honor to do it. I ask you to keep me there doing that. Something else I care very much about my role as state treasurer is I deeply believe in a transparent government. We need to make sure we know where our money is going as citizens of Kentucky. So early in my term, I launched a website called transparency.ky.gov. So you can Google your government, you can see where our money is going. And when I first got in office, there's always an organization that ranks states and how they're doing, and we were ranked 24th in the nation on transparency. After launching that website, we're now in the top 10 on transparency. And that's something I'm very proud of, and I want to make sure that's something we're committed to as a state and that I get better and better at. Something else I am excited about in this role as state treasurer is I practiced bankruptcy law before I became treasurer, so I really had my pulse on an issue in Kentucky that's actually been a problem for us, and that's financial literacy in Kentucky. Like I said, there's always an organization that ranks states, and we've been ranked 44th on financial literacy in the whole country. So last year, I used my role to push very hard to get a bill passed to make it a requirement for high school graduates in Kentucky that they have a course or a program on financial literacy before they graduate. And that passed, that's law now. And this year, I've had a bill that a commission will be created that uses the state treasury as the launching pad for it to provide resources for teachers to be able to make financial literacy available to their students. And what I love about it is it doesn't use taxpayer dollars. It's working with the private sector to pay for that. And as a fiscal responsible treasurer, that's something I'm very proud of and I think is an exciting thing for us to do. Before I sit down, one piece of personal information that I'm also proud of, because this is the most exciting thing that's happened in the last 4 years for me. You might have seen a little baby that was over there earlier in the evening, and he's gone now because he didn't last the whole evening. He went with my husband. But that little boy, 8 months ago, made me the first constitutional officer in Kentucky history to have a baby while in office. And I think that is great for us as Republicans, because they're always trying to tell us there's a war on women in the Republican Party. And I think that is a great answer, that there is no war on women, that we're the party for women and men and children and all Kentuckians, especially when a woman is the first one, as a Republican woman, to have a baby while in office, one of us. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm proud to be among you. I'm so grateful for your commitment, and please elect Republicans across the board because we have a great opportunity this year to do that. Thank you.
Last and not least, we do have our Kentucky Secretary of State candidates here tonight. There are 4 of them. I'm going to ask them to come on stage here, and so we'll hasten the introductions here. Michael Adams will be first, Andrew English second, Steve Nipper, and then Carl Nett. All right, Michael.
Thank you. Hello again. I'm Michael Adams, a proud Paducah native, and I'm honored to be the only Western Kentuckian on your May 21st primary ballot. In the last year, I've driven 35,000 miles, made public appearances in 78 counties, and lost 15 pounds on the Lincoln Day diet. I've run a principled and positive campaign about my qualifications and why I'm running to become Kentucky's top elections official. First, I believe I have the best qualifications of any candidate in either party for this office. I've worked for Senator McConnell, Governor Fletcher, and President George W. Bush's Justice Department, where I served as counsel to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Over the last dozen years, I've built a national Republican election law practice, helping elect many Republican leaders here in Kentucky and across America. And even more important, helping guide them on legal issues and ensuring compliance with the election laws. I've represented Vice President Pence, Ambassador Nikki Haley, the Republican Governors Association, the Republican Attorneys General Association, the National Federation of Republican Women, and Republican members of Congress. Second, I'm running to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, to police our elections and ensure they're free and fair, and to use this office to encourage citizen participation. At my campaign website, michaelgadams.com, you'll find the most detailed platform of any candidate of either party for this office. My highest priority is requiring a photo ID to vote in all Kentucky elections. Believe it or not, that is not currently state law, and we must correct that. And unlike our incumbent, Allison Lonergan Grimes, I'll work with, not against, this White House, where I have relationships that can benefit our state. There's one more thing. I can win. With 26 years of experience helping elect Republicans here in Western Kentucky, where I grew up, and across America, I've built a winning and well-financed campaign. In November, one of us four on the stage will face Heather French Henry. Heather French Henry is Allison Lonergan Grimes version 2.0. She's one of Allison Grimes' biggest donors. As scandal after scandal has cascaded out of Grimes' office, Mrs. Henry has had no comment, no comment, no comment. Most troubling of all, Mrs. Henry's own husband has been convicted of 3 separate election offenses. He got 1 year in jail suspended sentence and a fine. Suffice it to say, Mrs. Henry is not the right person to clean up Kentucky's elections or clean up Allison Grimes' scandals. The question before us this evening is, which Republican should we nominate to face her in November? I'd submit to you it's the one Republican who is far and away better qualified for this office than she is. The one Republican who has the resources to fight the Democratic machine, and the one Republican who beats Democrats for a living. My name is Michael Adams, and I respectfully ask for your vote in the May 21st primary. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Andrew English.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the veterans in the room to stand up and be recognized, please. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your service. You know, each one of those men and women who just stood up, they joined the military for one reason or another. Some wanted to escape poverty. Some wanted to pay for their education. Some just wanted to see the world. But at the core of what every single one of those people decided to do was stand up and defend democracy. And at the very core of that democracy is our vote. Our vote means more to democracy than anything else. And that vote is under attack. That vote is under attack from hackers, but it's also under attack from domestic threats, like our current Secretary of State. Our current Secretary of State has not cleaned up our voting rolls, has not fought for voter ID. We need a strong Secretary of State that will rebuild that office, that will reach out to our clerks, that will start from the foundation and work with the legislators to restore faith in that office. I'm here to tell you that as a veteran of the United States Navy and a current Lieutenant Commander of the United States Navy Reserve, as somebody who has had the honor to be appointed the General Counsel for the Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet, who has managed an office of over 40 people, lawyers, investigators, paralegals, an office larger than the Secretary of State's office. As somebody who is willing to work with anybody to make this state a better place, I am the right man to repair that office. On day one, I will fight for voter ID laws, work with our legislatures to clean up the voting rolls, something that is desperately needed and our current Secretary of State has been unwilling to do. As your Secretary of State, I will reach out and work with the governor's office to take advantage of the $17 billion of economic investment that the governor and the president and our legislature has brought forward to this Commonwealth. The cradle of economic development in the Commonwealth is the Secretary of State's office. That's where you go to file your LLC, to incorporate, and we need somebody in there who will be a partner with our governor. As your next Secretary of State, I will rebuild that office, starting with the clerks. Our clerks have been abused by our current Secretary of State. Our clerks have been ignored, and now we must rework that office. As your next Secretary of State, I would be honored to be your top person in Frankfort. I humbly ask, well, I generally say in the 2nd and the 6th Congressional District, where I'll be listed first on the ballot. They rotate each congressional district. On the 2nd Congressional District and the 6th, I always say I'm listed first, so I ask you all to press 1 for English. But here in the 1st Congressional District, I will be listed 2nd on the ballot. So on May 21st, I ask that you press 2 for English. Thank you all.
Stephen Nipper. Stephen.
Thank you all very much.
Wow, they weren't kidding about the lights. This is nice. Anyway, thank you all very much for coming out tonight. In 2015, when I ran against Allison Grimes, the 1st District was unbelievably beneficial to me. And here's why. Because out of the 471,000 votes cast statewide for me, the 1st Congressional District gave me 82,000 of those votes. So thank you. And why? What was that? I was an Erlanger City Council member. I'd never run for any office outside of my community, but I had a message. And that message has resonated and has now resonated since the year 2015 when I brought it up on KET. And that's this. We have 18 counties that have more registered voters than we do citizens in them. That was my message in 15. Nobody else brought that up. And as a matter of fact, Ms. Grimes told me, and the rest of everybody watching, and I'm so glad it's on tape, that we had the cleanest voter rolls in the nation. I then proceeded to tell her that her IT security and everything that way that would guard your data, stuff that is valuable for our veterans' safety, everything, it's not good. We need to improve it. So after that debate, I thought I did really well. I called my dad. I said, Dad, how did I do? He said, you did great, but I don't understand anything you were saying about the IT stuff. And I don't think anybody else does either, but you did great. So, he had to say something, but I got an interesting phone call. Matter of fact, I got a lot of interesting phone calls lately. 2017, right after the presidential election, my father called me and he said, I'm really starting to understand what you meant now about cybersecurity and understanding about why we need clean voter rolls. And why is that? Well, I mean, you can't open a paper, you can't turn on the radio, you can't watch a television program without seeing the fact that America's elections are under assault. And they are under assault by both foreign and domestic. Because we no longer have 18 counties in our state, we have 48. It'll be 60 by the end of the year. And the reason that that's important is because dirty voter rolls allow what it is. It's just voter fraud. And it's happening, and we can see it in Fayette County results. I looked at Fayette County results of some stalwarts in the Republican Party, Stan Lee being one of them. Stan Lee doesn't lose races, he just doesn't. His race was close, it was 500 votes he won by. There's a lot of legislators calling me now saying, Steve, I understand what you say now. I understand what you were talking about. We need some help. Well, it's a good thing because Secretary Houston in Ohio shared their plan with me to clean up their rolls. That plan was approved by the United States Supreme Court. We have that plan now, and I got a phone call from Secretary Houston when it was approved. He said, Steve, congratulations. Kentucky just got their voter cleanup rolls. And I'm going to use it. And there's a lot of talk about the general election. I'm focusing on the primary election, but let's face facts. If Heather French Henry is our candidate that we have to oppose, we need somebody who understands what veterans need most. So I ask everybody if you could take out your smartphones for just a second. Just take out your smartphones if you have any on you. And I want you to go to, because I'm going to simulate something that's very important for our vets, and that's voting. I want you to text in the subject area 555-888. And then in the message area, I'd like you to put KY VET, V-E-T. When you press send, you'll get a message. And that's a simulation of what our veterans can expect overseas. It can be done electronically, and it can be done privately. I know how to do it. I've been in the IT business for 20 years. I appreciate your votes. I appreciate the hospitality I've received. All here, I've spent the last 3 days in Western Kentucky. Went to the New Mandarin Band. It was awesome. It was just absolutely awesome. I ask for your vote on May 21st. It's very important because every person who spoke behind this microphone tonight is dependent on clean voter rolls. And I can't think of a better office to have it done than the Secretary of State's office, who is the Board of Elections leader. So I ask again for your vote, and I ask for you to please vote early. Don't vote often. Thank you.
All right, and our last speaker is Carl Nett. Carl.
I was the last speaker last year. I had the honor of addressing you from this stage when I just announced my campaign for Secretary of State. And I want to tell you that I'm not all country boy, despite this great big old belt buckle I'm wearing. I started the trip here with a cleaner shirt and better hair and this beautiful tie my wife picked out, but after 40,000 miles and 200 plus events, I finally did it. I blew a tire around E-Town, so I'm a little bit disheveled, but honored to be here again. Here's what you need to know for those of you who haven't met me. I'm a Kentucky native. I was born and raised in Louisville and also grew up in Hardin County, where my parents are now retired to their beef cattle farm, and also in Frankfort, where my dad served 10 terms as a Democrat state representative, along with Kenny Imes. They were colleagues. Dad's now a Republican like all his kids, and a couple 100,000 other ex-Democrats. But I left the Commonwealth after the terrorist attacks of 9/11 when I was hired by the U.S. Secret Service. After 6 years assigned to the Presidential Protective Division, I resigned my commission when recruited onto a contract with the Central Intelligence Agency. Supporting the National Clandestine Service, I volunteered for hazardous duty assignment in Afghanistan. And in 2011, my career came full circle when the Pentagon asked me to lead a specialized unit at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Did a few other things. I received an offer from the FBI as a special agent, which I very wisely turned down as an aspiring politician. Chalked that up to luck. Wrote a couple books. One is an anthology of U.S. history that I put out in 2013, endorsed by such prominent Americans as Herschel Williams, the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the Battle of Iwo Jima. And I'm working on my second book, which details my 9/11 career, and I hope to have out later this fall. I'm running for Secretary of State because I believe, as my opponents believe of themselves, that I'm the best qualified candidate. I'm the only person in this race who's a trained criminal investigator. That's important, given the problems out of that office right now. I'm the only candidate who is actively suing Secretary Grimes at this moment for election fraud. I'm also a trained intelligence and counterintelligence officer with the CIA, uniquely qualified to take on the new and emerging threats to our election system. And as you know, this is an administrative job. It's not a legislative job. I am one of the most effective administrators in the United States and have been for many years, dealing with one of the most sensitive and politically charged operations of the U.S. government at Guantanamo Bay. I'm also the only candidate who has an active TS-SCI clearance, which means that I will be the only Secretary of State, very likely in the nation, who can demand and receive any and all classified threat data related to our elections. What I'm trying to tell you is that if I'm the nominee of our party in the fall, I will be able to say that I am more qualified to be Miss America than Heather French Henry is to be Secretary of State. So again, my name is Carl Nett, and I'm asking for your vote. And let me harken back to my days as a baller when I was in high school and grade school. Nothing but net. It was a common headline. I got a little bit sick of it, but if it helps you remember me, then please, by all means. Nothing but net, May 21. I appreciate your vote. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you for your attention and listening to these candidates. They put a lot into this, and they've invested a lot of their lives. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for being there. One quick note, a big event coming up, night before Fancy Farm. Robert O'Neill, I don't know if you know that name or not, but he is with SEAL Team, or was with SEAL Team 6, the folks that shot Osama bin Laden. He will be at the night before Fancy Farm event coming up August 2nd. That'll be sponsored by the Marshall County Republican Party, and we really hope that you'll be in attendance for that. We hope you have a safe journey home. Thank you for being here tonight, and God bless America.